Hi everyone, it's Iris here, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm introducing a very popular therapy approach that can benefit a lot of people. You might have heard of it too. It's CBT, short for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. CBT is one of the most well-known types of therapy. There's been a lot of scientific evidence that supports how CBT can successfully produce change in people. CBT can be defined as a step-by-step method for identifying your negative thinking and replacing it with healthier thinking and behavior. Basically, it changes your inner dialogue. Numerous studies have proven that CBT is effective for treating anxiety, depression, and addiction. So before we go into how CBT actually works, I want to talk about the important role of negative thinking when we're using CBT. Negative thinking is thinking that leads to negative consequences. It's based on false beliefs or on a few selected facts, and it ignores important facts that will lead to better consequences. Negative thinking is usually rigid, absolute, and not supported by most of the facts. When your thinking is rigid and absolute, you tend to take on an all-or-nothing approach, and you're resistant to change. For example, you may think that you're a failure at everything, and you're resistant to hearing encouraging advice from your friends. Sometimes it's hard to recognize negative thinking. You might simply only recognize that your life isn't working. CBT is designed to help you recognize your negative thinking and discover healthier thinking patterns. CBT is so effective because it helps to rewire your brain. When you challenge your negative thinking, you create new neural pathways. The more you practice a new way of thinking, the more you strengthen those neural pathways. The benefits of CBT are not just temporary. It changes your brain pathways and has a more permanent effect on your thinking and behavior. The consequences of negative thinking are cumulative. One negative thought piled on top of another starts to take a toll on how you view yourself and your future. Let's take a look at some of the negative thinking patterns that we may have. As I mentioned earlier with the all or nothing thinking, you might think that you're a failure at everything you do. If you think that any mistake is a failure, this all or nothing thinking can lead to anxiety. You worry that any mistake may expose you to criticism or judgment. Therefore, you don't give yourself permission to relax and let down your guard. You might only focus on the negatives and use negative self-labeling like, I'm unworthy. If people knew the real me, they wouldn't like me. If you think that you're broken, unfixable, or unlikable, this negative self-labeling can lead to depression. You're trapped by your own unrealistic view of yourself. Feeling trapped is actually one of the common issues of depression. You might also catastrophize by thinking that if something's going to happen, it'll probably be the worst case scenario. Another popular one is mind reading. I can tell people don't like me because of the way they behave. The bottom line is, all negative thinking is learned thinking. You weren't born thinking this way. You probably learned it by watching the people around you. Negative thinking turns into automatic thinking through repetition. By the time you're independent enough to do your own thinking, you may have been exposed to numerous examples of negative thinking. By then, negative thinking feels like just part of who you are. Without even questioning it, you automatically assume that you're wrong, or a failure, or disliked. Automatic thinking is helpful in everyday life because you have so many minor decisions to make that you can't take time to ponder every choice. It allows you to navigate life efficiently. But automatic thinking is unhelpful if your assumptions are false. If you have absorbed a negative way of thinking, then you often come to the wrong conclusions without even knowing why. Therefore, negative thinking not only leads to unhappiness, it's also an obstacle to self-change. But what I want to emphasize is that what you've learned, you can unlearn and acquire new life skills and new ways of thinking that lead to a better life. And this is the value of cognitive behavioral therapy. As I said earlier, CBT is one of the most effective treatments for anxiety and depression. People going through depression may believe that they're unlovable and bad, that they deserve to be hurt and rejected. They tend to twist positive comments from others into neutral remarks, neutral interactions into negative exchanges, and any negative cues into catastrophic personal attacks, basically thinking that everybody hates them. Remember one of the past videos I posted about defense mechanisms? In this case, they're projecting their self-hate onto the world and become sensitized, indeed hypersensitive, to any sign of rejection. How CBT works is you're changing your behavior by examining your beliefs or thinking. What is your core belief? That's the question that the therapist is trying to get at. The goal is to get you to understand that your perceptions aren't necessarily reality, that the world might not be as dark as it seems. When you're doing a CBT session, your therapist will introduce to you something called the automatic thought record. The purpose of keeping this record is to help you catch your automatic thoughts. recognize the feelings that go along with them, and work on balancing out your thinking toward changing your mood. Let's look at an automatic thought record worksheet and go over an example together. Here, starting on the left column, first identify the situation. Who were you with? What were you doing? When was it? And where were you? To make it easier for you guys to understand how this works, I'm going to use a classic example that occurs often in therapy. My boyfriend that I've been with for 5 years broke up with me last week after having dinner at my place. Then in column 2, describe how you felt emotionally and physically. List out each mood in one word and rate the intensity of mood on a scale from 0 to 100. So here I have sad 90%, angry 50%, hopeless 80%, alone 90%, scared 80%, and confused 70%. Then in column 3, here we have the automatic thoughts. Write down the negative or unhelpful thoughts that you noticed. These are some of the questions to think about. What was going through your mind just before you started to feel this way? What does this say about you? What does this mean about you? What are you afraid might happen? What is the worst thing that could happen if this is true? What does this mean about how other people think about you? So in this example, I have, he has never loved me. Nobody loves me. He doesn't care about me. I'm not good enough. There must be something wrong with me. Without him, I'm nothing. I'm going to be alone forever. Moving on to column 4, this is where we look at the evidence that supports the hot thought. A hot thought is basically any irrational thought that you're unable to control, and it's a negatively skewed belief. You can look for evidence by circling any hot thought in the previous column, and then write down factual evidence to support this conclusion. But try to avoid mind reading and interpretation of facts. What we need to do here is try and think rationally, not emotionally. So here I have, he left me and doesn't want to be with me. My previous ex dumped me as well. Now the next column, number 5, is where we focus on the evidence that does not support the hot thought. Challenge those thoughts and allow yourself to start thinking rationally. I have a lot of friends and family who care about me and love me. I have many useful qualities and I just got a promotion at work. In column 6, here we look at our alternative thoughts. So look at the evidence for and against, and think of alternative thoughts that may help you rationalize the situation. We've been having problems for a while now, and we haven't really been happy for a long time. Now I can focus more on my job and spending more time with friends and family that I've neglected for the past few months. In the final column, 7, copy the feelings that you had earlier from column 2, and rate the intensity of each feeling again from 0 to 100. Also rate the intensity of any new feeling that you may have. So here I have sad 60%, angry 30%, hopeless 40%, alone 30%, scared 60%, and confused 35%. And new feelings that I have now are proud 80%, loved 70%. This is what an automatic thought record looks like. You can do this exercise whenever you find yourself having these negative thoughts. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I'd love to know what your negative automatic thoughts are, and feel free to leave your comments below if you've ever confronted them. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on future videos. See y'all next week.